Welcome to the MVP Show. We're off to Washington today to chat with our most dangerous MVP yet, Muay Thai boxer Melissa Hubbard, and author of Mastering Microsoft Teams. She's also a flow expert. Can I ask you to do me a quick favor? If you enjoy this show, please leave a comment on iTunes by going to nz365guy.com/iTunes. Please note, the event we discussed, the Microsoft Flow online conference, was held last December. So if you want to see the past recordings, etc. from that, just do a quick Google of the Microsoft Flow online conference and you should be able to find that event. For full show notes, visit nz365guy.com/63. Now let's get on with the show.
There's a knife in my heart and a storm in my...
Well, welcome to the MVP Show. I'm here with Melissa. Melissa, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you for having me. Excited to be here.
There's a bunch of people in the community that might not know who you are. Can you kind of tell us a bit about you and your journey so far into the MVP program?
Sure. So I guess the short story is my name's Melissa Hubbard, and I am a Microsoft MVP in business applications category. I focus mostly on Microsoft Flow. I was one of the first Flow MVPs in the world. I started using the product very early. Yeah, I'm pretty proud of that, and it's exciting. So I started using the product, speaking about the product, blogging about Microsoft Flow pretty early on in its life, and I ended up becoming an MVP. So I speak at a lot of conferences. I try to give as much to the community as I can, as it really helped me in my career as well.
So what about family? Do you have a family? Where do you kind of live at the moment? What part of the world are you in?
Sure. So I live in the greater Washington, D.C. area. I actually live in the state of Virginia. I'm really only about 11 or 12 miles from Washington, D.C., which can be over an hour in rush hour. I live in a small condo in Virginia. It's pretty nice. I live with my 3-year-old daughter and my cat.
You're another cat lover, as it seems that the female MVPs love their cats.
It's funny. I didn't get my cat too long before I became an MVP. So maybe that was really the last thing I needed before getting the MVP award.
Okay, you've heard it here first, people. The key to becoming an MVP is you got to love cats. That's it.
Yeah,
I
never thought of that,
interesting.
But it's true.
It must be true. So you call yourself an old school millennial. What does that mean?
Oh, yeah. So that's funny you asked that. So I am a millennial, but I am an older millennial, meaning I'm much on the older spectrum, barely a millennial, really. And it's just funny because of all of the publicity that millennials get. And I just think so much of it is BS. And also, I call myself old school millennial, one, because I'm an older one, and also just because a lot of the values that are attributed with millennials, I just don't feel like I have. Like, I still call people on the phone. I don't text while I'm at the table. I kind of slow on the new apps. Like, I tried Snapchat and was kind of like, eh.
But you've moved around a lot: Maine, New York, Florida, Nebraska, Virginia. Now, so what's caused the travels?
Well, I guess part of that has been being a millennial. In that I went to college in South Florida, so I was born in Maine. Moved to New York with my family, where my mom's family mostly lives. In upstate New York, very snowy New York, country New York, not New York City like at all. So then I went to college in South Florida, and it was really, really, really nice experience to experience all the different cultures and all the different people. It's such a melting pot in Southern Florida. So I went to college there, and that's actually where I started working in IT. And then when I finished my master's degree, it was really during the recession, and there was not much work at all. It was pretty hard to survive off of my help desk salary, and I ended up moving to Nebraska for my job. It was really one of the only places I could get a job, and I said, you know what? I went and visited, really liked it. then I ended up moving back to DC to do consulting.
What do you see kind of the mix of, technology with people? So sometimes, it's easy to get kind of bogged down, if you like, in the technology and lose focus of the people that are kind of using what we build and create. How do you kind of create that balance between people and technology?
So I do feel this is one of the strengths I bring to the table because um, one of the things I also put in my speaker slides sometimes is that I'm an ex-angry end user. And when I say that, it's because when I worked in Nebraska, I was working for the state and I was doing child protection and juvenile parole work. And so I really got to experience being that end user that's really not in control of my technology and being pushed a lot of different updates that maybe can't really meet my business needs. And, the IT department not paying attention when we're trying to tell them things that we're really struggling with. So I try to take those memories, being that angry end user, and just realizing that when you're working with people, they just want it to be easy. They don't want to have to make this a second job for themselves, trying to figure out what we're building for them that's supposedly supposed to be making their life easier. It just needs to be intuitive, and it really is about making things easier. That's why I love Microsoft Flow, or building something to make someone's life easier. Work less, do more. That's the motto.
Well, that's definitely a millennial thing coming out there, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So tell me about Muay Thai.
So some of my best memories come from participating on a Muay Thai fight team. I'm a retired Muay Thai fighter, I would say, but I still do like to train when I have time, which isn't very often, unfortunately. But yeah, so I did it for about 7 years. It's a form of kickboxing. I had two amateur fights, one that I won, one that I lost, and it was really cool because I was actually I had started IT consulting by then, and a whole bunch of people, even my project manager, everyone came up to the Bronx to support me, and it was just so awesome because I won, and it was something you have to work really, really hard at. Like, you really push yourself to an extreme to do an amateur fight. Uh, so yeah, it was a huge life accomplishment to me.
So can you get the shit beaten out of you though?
Yeah, you can. You do wear headgear, but
Oh, okay. So you don't get bruised up or bashed up in the face or anything like that.
no, your face can. You just don't really. It's pretty hard to get a concussion with headgear on, but you can get your face punched and stuff. I didn't get really beat up too bad, but you can. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Is it good for self-defense?
It's very good for self-defense. I really want my daughter to do it when she gets a little bit older. Yeah, it's really a street style of fighting in a way because you can use your elbows, you can use your knees, but once it goes to the ground, they stop you and pull you up again.
So contrast that with your hobby of gardening.
So I have different ways to relax my mind. Sometimes it involves punching people. Other times it involves gardening and growing from seed my beautiful flowers and vegetables that I give to my family.
Nice. You find that do you find it kind of therapeutic, gardening?
Yes, very much so. It's really, I like building things and also watching things grow. I like that. You start from seed and then you have this, plant, you grow life. It's really awesome to do.
It's so cool. I find the same thing. I just love getting out in nature and gardening and being out of the city as much as possible. In my case, I much prefer that type of lifestyle.
Yeah, I do too. I would live in the country again if I could.
I currently live in London, so I don't have that pleasure. But back in New Zealand, I do have a bit of land that I will return to one day, which would be nice.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So tell us about how kind of psychology, criminal justice, what you studied at college, etc., plays into kind of your role as a consultant nowadays.
Oh, well, yeah. So I guess that is I meet a lot of people who didn't study computer science in school. So kind of neat. The MVP program has a really diverse group of people as far as their backgrounds and lifestyles. I was always interested in psychology. I think there's always that piece of I want to figure out what the heck's wrong with myself, so I'm going to study psychology. No, I mean, really just getting, it's very interesting to learn about the mind, to learn about the psyche. And I just kind of fell in love with it. And I'm like, well, I'm going to study the thing that interests me the most right now. Then I went on to do a master's in criminal justice. My big plan was to go to law school. And I got into law school. I took the LSAT and the to get into law school and put a seat deposit down, and I got there and I had such a strong feeling. I didn't start, but I went to visit, and I got such a strong feeling that it was just not my career path. I don't know, it was just something hit me really strongly that just felt wrong, and I decided not to go. My family was very thrilled with me.
So as in, that's sarcasm, I take it? They weren't happy?
Yes, that's a bit of sarcasm.
Yeah, I can imagine after, I suppose the whole family was expecting you to go through law school and become a famous lawyer, and then you decided that's not the path for you. But it's a choice you have to make, right?
Yeah, and I don't regret it at all, because later on I worked I did child protection, and I did juvenile parole, and I became a supervisor, and I got to be part of the legal system pretty closely and work really closely with judges and lawyers. And I just really realized that is not the lifestyle I would have liked. I love working in IT. And so I always feel so blessed that I did sort of just land in it. There is that piece of luck. And then there also is that opportunistic side of me where I saw an opportunity where I really had something to offer in the IT world. And I took it, and I was scared, to move to Washington, D.C. and become a consultant, but I did it.
What have you found it works well for you as a consultant? Like, kind of, if you were to advise other people from a consulting perspective, what are kind of some of the key things that you would say, listen, you need to learn these type of skills? I'm talking about outside of, things such as, power apps, flows, if you like the technology side of it, kind of what other type of soft skills would you recommend that they take on board?
Oh, great. Yeah. So some of the skills I took from learning in psychology is those people skills. Everyone has a background and everyone has a life outside of work, and really taking the time to get to know the people you're working with, and some of those listening skills, and also just showing empathy to others, not jumping to conclusions. So a lot of those just basic communication skills have come in so handy for me. I would like to say, a pretty high EQ that sort of comes naturally to me. So I don't consider myself a developer. I consider myself more of an IT pro and project manager. And that's really just helped me in working with a lot of different types of people. And I just really care. I try to care about the people that I'm working with. It makes a big difference.
Good. So you've done a bit of travel, places like Puerto Rico, South Korea. What's taken you on these kind of globe-trotting type trips?
So for Puerto Rico, I went for a SharePoint Saturday event. I was part of a diversity and inclusion panel with Heather Newman, who is someone I really look up to. She's really involved in the community. She's just at the European SharePoint conference now, doing a panel for diversity and inclusion, and really trying to push change in our Microsoft community to be more inclusive. So I was there and I spoke on that panel, and that was a really amazing experience. I wrote a book, by the way, called Mastering Microsoft Teams. It's an end user guide, and I gave out my book to some of the students there, and I got to meet a lot of different people, and it was, it's heartbreaking to hear some of the stories of what happened from the hurricane and things like that. But being there, it was about a year later since the hurricane, and watching the growth and people rebuilding their careers and their lives. And some people spent 2 hours on a bus coming there for the event. sat taking notes. It was honestly one of the best experiences of my life, going to Puerto Rico. And South Korea, I went more for a personal nature. I just really wanted to start traveling. And I have a friend that's stationed in the military there. So we went all around visiting palaces and parts of Seoul and smaller cities in South Korea, and it was amazing.
So tell us about your journey of writing that book. So mastering Microsoft Teams. Tell me, do you have a feel for how many hours you invested in that?
Oh gosh, I don't want to even think about it. It was a lot. It was so it's to me a huge accomplishment. If you had asked me 5 years ago, would I be writing a book? I just would have probably laughed. We started off with the concept, and at the time there really wasn't that much out as far as books on Microsoft Teams. I still don't think there's too many. And so we started off with a concept. It changed over time, but the amount of hours, I'm not even sure. But I have a daughter, so I do my day job, and then I would get her in bed, and then I would snuggle up on my couch with my cat, pull out my laptop, and start writing. And we worked with a publisher. We wrote it through A Press, and so they have a pretty stringent schedule, and writer's block is not really an option.
Would you do it again?
I'm not sure that I would write another technical book. I might write something a little bit more personal, but I would probably self-publish and do it on my own schedule this time.
I self-published my wife's book at the start of this year, and it was a journey of our travels and dealing with grief. And self-publishing was a really great experience to go through, and it just kind of gives you that full control of the output that you create.
Yeah, for me, it was really the schedule. My creative times just come in waves, I think, like most creative people. And so I get a lot of ideas at once and want to put everything down. And then, I might go a week or sometimes 2 weeks without, it's not that I'm not thinking of the book or coming up with ideas, but just putting it to paper is different. And being on a schedule for that was pretty stressful, to say the least. But I have a co-author as well named Matthew Bailey, and we joke like we're even better friends now after writing the book together.
So have you been to MVP Summit yet?
Yeah, I did. I went last year. It was really awesome. Yeah.
Tell me, what have you found the best thing about becoming an MVP?
So I've always had the SharePoint community since I started consulting and working in SharePoint and Office 365. But getting involved in the Flow community and being one of the first 5, I just feel like I have this second family now. We're constantly in contact with each other. We have a group message where we're always sharing and learning and growing together. So to me, that's my favorite part. I do consider them my Flow family, and now we've got 2 other women recently added. For a while, I was the only woman.
So the interesting thing about you being on the podcast here is that, I come from the side of, a dynamics background, and, more in the customer relationship side of things. And with a bunch of people have joined the community with these Flow type backgrounds. So yours started, I take it, more in the SharePoint environment or Office 365?
Yes. Yep. In Washington, D.C., there's a huge SharePoint and Office 365 market, especially with the federal government, being here, most of the offices being here. So that's what I started off doing. And now I've moved into working in Flow. I don't do as much with Power Apps, but I am still learning Power Apps. But I still stay in the Office 365 realm for the most part.
Who do you kind of engage with in the product team from the Flow side of things? Who would your key people be in Microsoft?
So my key person is John Levesque. He stays in very close contact with us and keeps us updated on product updates and things like that. And then Merwan is another person, Steven Sigliano. But the day-to-day on social media and in our group messaging is mostly John. Kent just left. He was sort of John's partner in crime, and he just, I think this week, announced he was leaving Microsoft. So we're all sad about that. But we'll see. Hopefully there'll be someone new and fun too.
Gotcha. So it was interesting as you went through that list. I found the common crossover. So Stephen is the main person we would engage with, from our side of things, I suppose, to date, in the flow side of things. And then, there's a couple of MVPs, particularly who jumps to mind is Jerry Weinstock and Eliza are both heavily getting into flow, if you like, from the common data services for apps type side of things. I don't know if you've met Eliza from down in Melbourne, Australia, but she started a video series called WTF, and it's what the flow. So
oh my goodness, no, I haven't seen that. I will have to check that out.
Check it out on YouTube. So now, which brings up videos. Are you creating a bunch of stuff on videos? I saw a post there about your top half being dressed for video and being casual on the bottom. So that made me smile because I've been in the same position. And so tell us about the video creation side of things.
Oh, sure. So yes, I was very excited that the Flow Twitter marketing people made a cartoon of me. That was a career highlight right there. But yeah, so I am going to admit I'm very comfortable doing a podcast, and I actually checked with your assistant if there would be video, because when there is video, I kind of have to do my woo-saws and get extra into the get into my tap into my courage and things like that, because I don't feel comfortable on video, but I know that so many people learn through video, and it's just so important. I'm still old school, right? I like reading blogs. When I'm learning something new, I like reading and doing it myself. But so many other people like video that I've been trying to get better at doing more and more videos. So I do have how-to videos on YouTube, but I've just recently started showing my face on some of them. Yes, and we are doing on December 12th. So Jerry Weinstock, you mentioned, he's part of this as well. On December 12th, we're having an all-day Microsoft Flow online conference that everyone can register for free. And my session is the very first one. It's called Meet Microsoft Flow. So I was creating my video for that. So I wanted to look extra professional because there's, I think, a couple thousand people signed up. And so that's probably my biggest audience. So I'm going to wear a suit jacket for that.
So, wow, I mean, that's going to be fun. That's going to be, very good.
It is. We're all going to be on Twitter answering questions the whole day and things like that. Super exciting.
So I like to wrap up with a couple of what I call end questions or wrap-up questions, and one just kind of suits you perfectly. So it is, who do you think of when I say the word punchable?
Oh, my goodness. The President of the United States.
Woo, controversial.
I really try not to be political, but you asked, and there's my answer.
That's all good. Everyone's open to their own opinions. What's quick fire? Dogs or cats? We know the answer.
Cats.
Wine or beer?
Wine.
Snow or beach?
Snow.
Wow. Okay. Well, hey, it's been good chatting with you, Melissa. I didn't even get onto the fruit you are named after, as in Hubbard. That was an impressive picture on Twitter. Is it a squash?
Yes, it's a Hubbard squash, which we joke is our family emblem, but it's kind of true.
Let me know when you get that tattoo. Hey, it's been great chatting with you. We'll probably see you at MVP Summit at some point. If people want to find you, follow you online, that type of thing, kind of where's the best place for them to check you out?
So I have a blog, melihub.com, and I post most of my content on Twitter and LinkedIn. I'm pretty easy to find on LinkedIn, and my Twitter handle is @melihub. So I'm always happy to answer questions and chat, especially in comments on my blog or on Twitter.
Hey, thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please subscribe and leave feedback on your favorite podcast app. Full show notes can be found at nz365guide.com/63. See you next week.